What's up guys, and welcome back to On the Brick with another custom mock review, and this time it's one that I made. And by one, I mean technically 9, and by 9, I mean way more than that. See, about a year ago, I made a video showcasing some minifig displays that I had created, something that I really enjoyed doing actually. And then people really liked it, and I went and made a whole lot more. So today I'll be showing you wave 2 of those. These designs are all meant to be reminiscent of specific scenes or iconic locations from each of the main 9 Star Wars movies. I have also made some for the TV shows and for Rogue One, and am currently teetering with designs for both Solo and Andor. My idea with these was always to have something that is easy to display without taking up too much space, but still looks really good. So every single one of these displays begins by using a 6x6 base and then building off of that. I try to keep each of them at the same height of 7 bricks and 2 studs tall, because that's just what I built the first one at, but there are obvious exceptions to that, especially with ones that don't really need a background. And I also try to do a mix of designs that are for specific minifigures or ones that could really be used by a variety. So with all of that said, let me show you the 9 that I have for you today. So starting with episode 1, we have the Jedi Council Chamber. More specifically, this is actually Plo Koon's seat. I'm sure you already knew this, but each of the Jedi Masters on the Council have their own unique seats. So this one was modeled off of Plo Koon's. In total, it contains 78 parts, including the base. The only downside to this is that caped minifigures do struggle to be put in seats like this, but you can make it work. Also, on a quick side note, I have no idea why the 2x4 dark red piece is so bad. It was supposed to be brand new. The chair here was actually not that difficult to make, really just relying on some hinge pieces. But the background was where I really struggled, as I kind of wanted it to be dynamic and show that it was the Jedi Council Chamber, but there's also just not much actually going on in the background of the Jedi Council Chamber. So at the end of the day, I didn't overthink it and decided to just show the window and let the focus be on the chair and the minifigure. Now, if we move on to episode 2, this was actually one of my favorite to design and the entire reason that I even started working on a second wave at all, because this is the I hate sand scene. Because while there are definitely iconic moments from episode 2, I absolutely had to make this one happen. And I love how it turned out. I was able to use these ornamental fence pieces to get the enclosed balcony area while still making it feel like they were in front of a building in Naboo. You have the tan building, the plants, even the sand green tops to the buildings, and a little bit of the sky as well. In all, this one is slightly bigger than the last one at 93 pieces. And that does actually include the ability to switch out where the minifigures stand so that you can have 2 fitting in here. It is an extremely tight fit, but it does work. Episode 3 is by far one of the more complicated ones that I've ever designed, because this is the landing platform on Utapau, specifically where Obi-Wan defeats Grievous. So here, I needed to show that it was Utapau, I needed to build the platform, but I didn't want it to just be a platform on rocks, so I wanted to include the tunnel that they come out of, or at least the indication thereof. Figuring out how to make the platform was actually rather easy and way more sturdy than you might think. And I also once again referred back to one of my favorite pieces to use in mocks, which is the wand piece. Here it sticks in these round 1x1 bricks and is actually held in place on the other side by the curved 1x4 piece, the slope curved one. The challenge here came at the bottom, as again I didn't just want it to be black, I wanted to show that this was Utapau, so I went with this rocky feel that ultimately I do think does the job well. Originally I was thinking of maybe trying to add the pool that Obi-Wan falls into, but that's a different area. Now this has a lot of small pieces, bringing the total piece count to 99, one of the larger ones that I've made. And at this point, before we move on, if you like what you see, please do consider subscribing as it helps me out a ton, and hit that like button down below. In stark contrast to the complexity that was Episode 3's model, Episode 4 is quite simple. It's a bit smaller at only 69 pieces, nice, and this scene is supposed to be the trench cavern area that Luke and Leia swing across on the Death Star. Unfortunately, this build can only actually fit a single minifigure. I did try to mess around with it and figure it out, but ultimately this is what I came up with, and I don't think it's bad at all. I also did keep the base empty on this one as, again, it's meant to be a cavern. There's not really supposed to be anything there. And to help sell the illusion of the door, this is actually multi-layered, something that I don't do with many of these builds. So flipping this around does kind of ruin the illusion a little bit, but I also just wanted to show that it really can be that simple sometimes. Now, moving on, Episode 5 for me is the second hardest film to find something to make, because they're only ever in 3 locations. So I can't just do like generic Naboo like I did last time, as I need to make very specific moments. And I wouldn't be surprised if this one left you scratching your head. I'll give you a second here to guess. In fact, leave your guesses in the comments down below. Okay, that's enough time. This is obviously Cloud City, but more specifically, this is this deal keeps getting worse all the time moment between Lando and Darth Vader. I thought that I had a Lando minifigure, by the way, and I don't, so here's a random Episode 5 figure. This model is 79 pieces and once again multi-layered, if only because of the pillars on the side of the door, which I really like the sand blue color of. This is probably one of the simpler ones, but future waves will definitely see more complicated builds for Empire. Speaking of more complicated builds, Episode 6 is the Emperor's Throne from the second Death Star. Obviously, the most complicated part of this build was the throne itself, and I remember looking at so many on Rebrickable and Instagram and just a bunch of different places trying to find a very good way of making this at a small scale that still worked. So I can't take full credit for the throne, but I also can't really give it to someone else because I wouldn't know who to give it to. Also, I need a better Episode 6 Palpatine. And I just realized right now while editing that I have one. Anyway, what I really like about this model is that it's also only 69 pieces. Nice. Just like the Episode 4 one. So it really just comes to show that it depends on how you use those pieces. Now, slight disclosure here. The window behind Palpatine is supposed to be the spider crack version that is actually his throne room window, but that's way more expensive than the non-printed version, so I just went with this to save a little bit of money. Also, technically the throne can rotate a little bit, but there's just not much maneuverability here. If you remove the back, you can easily rotate it, but otherwise it is unfortunately pretty limited. Still, this is one that I am extremely proud of. I think I captured the moment very, very well. So that does it for the original trilogy. Let me know what your favorites so far have been in the comments down below, and if you have any other suggestions for moments or scenes that I should recreate. Can be from the movies, from the shows, from whatever you would like. So we have 3 more to go because I did make some for the sequel trilogy as well, and the first is Rey sitting outside of the AT-AT. This is a surprisingly smaller but still kind of complicated build at 61 pieces. The most complicated part of this was getting the AT-AT foot correct. It had to be the backdrop here and look at least somewhat accurate. So once again, I did look over various different smaller scale AT-ATs and ultimately settled on what you see here. And it's held in place by a single bracket piece. The rest is just a bunch of sand and whatnot, and then of course the single fighter helmet. Again, which the blank generic version of is significantly cheaper. When building these, I always try to have a background because that's kind of the idea, but neither Episode 7 build has been able to do that yet. But that does change in the other 3 waves. Episode 8 was one of the more fun ones to design, as I also wanted to do Snoke's throne, but it's not a direct match to Palpatine's. Snoke's is actually slightly larger, and obviously not on a Death Star. This one's on a Super Star Destroyer, which was definitely the plan from the beginning. But this one is pretty simple, coming in at only 61 pieces. The little hook on the right there, well, I guess our left, is meant to be for the lightsaber, and unlike Palpatine's throne, this one is fixed in place. It will not move. But I do like the red background here. I don't know, it just makes it very vibrant and looks cool. And the best part is that Snoke actually fits in it without a problem. So, remember a few minutes ago when I said that Episode 5 was the second hardest movie to make these for? Episode 9 is the absolute hardest to make these for. It is so impossible to find a scene or a moment that is A, possible to be recreated at this size, and B, worthwhile. When I reached out on Instagram to ask for scenes from this movie, I actually got a lot of really cool responses, but the one that I got more than any was the I am all the Jedi scene, which is what I did last time. But visually, that scene is actually very boring, which is why the model turned out quite boring. So what have we been looking at this whole time? Well, hold on to your butts because the next boy band is about to drop. This is from that scene where the Knights of Ren are standing on the cliff. Yeah, that's it. I think part of the problem is that I just don't remember much from Episode 9. And out of the 5 models that I've made for Episode 9, only 2 are ones that I'm actually proud of. So if you have any ideas for Episode 9, please do let me know, as I would love to keep making more of these. Anyway, this is actually the smallest model by far, coming in at only 53 pieces, and that's because most of it is hollow. You can definitely fit more than one minifigure on here. You could probably put about 2 or 3 if you really wanted to. And I'm sorry, I'm just not really proud of this one. I mean, I think the model itself is fine, but it's just the scene itself isn't. But overall, I am very happy with these. I have just had so much fun making these, and like I said, I have 3 more waves from just the movies that I would love to show off. So if you want to see those, remember to hit that like button and subscribe for future videos, and leave your suggestions for future models in the comments down below. And if enough people like these, I'll sell the instructions. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.